Welcome back to All the Mods. I'm Bumstar, and last episode was huge. We explored the ancient city, managed to get our hands on some AllTheMonium, and unlocked the mining dimension. So now resources are starting to come in a lot faster than before. But there's a bit of a problem. We're at the point where crafting everything manually just isn't going to cut it anymore. So in this episode, we're going to start getting into the one, the only, Applied Energistics. This is going to completely change how we store items, how we craft things, and eventually allow us to automate huge parts of this mod pack. We're not going to get too crazy with it just yet, but the goal for today is to get the basics set up and have a functional system that we can start building on. So let's get into it. But before we get started on that, I did a little bit of building. So since we got AllTheMonium, I went ahead and I crafted all of the building gadgets from Building Gadgets 2. And have been using it to kind of open up an area over here. Because like I said at the beginning of this series, this is just kind of our starter base. This is where we've been at now. We're going to be moving in over here pretty soon. I don't have it decorated at all because I want to get Applied Energistics going to auto-craft the building blocks that I want. But this is our entrance. And within our entrance, we have 4 square rooms here that we will use for different things. What's up, buddy? And we'll expand on this more. We can always go further in and make more rooms. We can expand there. And then down here, I have a white elevator. And if you've watched any of my other series, you know that I enjoy building in circles. So if we go down this elevator, we've got a big circle room. And I didn't change any of this yet. I just used the builder from RF Tools to create this with a query card, using pretty much the same thing that we are doing in the mining dimension, just to dig out a hole in the shape that I wanted. This will be changed, but I do have this set up as long as I did my math correctly, and I'm notorious for not doing that correctly. I have this set up so that way we can fit all 3 multi-blocks from Applied Energistics into this room, and have plenty of room for other things set up as well. My plan then is to kind of branch out into sides here as we need more room. So we have the main area up there, which will probably just be some basic stuff. But then down here is where the computer is going to be. And then branching out from the sides here will expand even further underground. But here's my chest of all of the different things. And I already put all the ores and stuff that I mined into our system, our QIO. But this is just all the cobblestone and stuff that's left. I'm just not going to move this chest right now because that's a lot of stuff. But this is where our Applied Energistics systems is going to go. So I put the gadgets away and I'm going to try and grab a couple cardboard boxes. Now we're going to go ahead and kind of take a look around on our map because we need to find some meteors. And we've stumbled across a few of them already. We have one over here. And all you have to do is look for like this circle chunk kind of build out. So one here. One here, right over here. I think this might be one as well. Another one down here, and right here. So we know where plenty are. If you're unsure of where they are, if you haven't stumbled across any of them, you can do the meteorite compass. And all you have to do is build a charger from Applied Energistics 2, throw a regular compass in here, and this will make your meteorite compass, and this will point you in the right direction. Since we already know where some meteors are, we don't need to worry about that. So now let's head to our first meteor. We'll start working our way down first. All right, and here's our first one, and we got to be careful with this because this one is filled with lava, but we can just dig down from the top. And our refined obsidian paxel is more than enough for this. Here we go. Let's go ahead and clear out this area a bit. You're going to want to grab some of the skystone, but you're also going to want these Certus quartz. For these, we're looking for the flawless budding Certus quartz. We want to use a cardboard box on these, so that way we can pick those up. Silk touch does not work on that, so you got to be super careful with them. And that's the only flawless that we have here. So let's break this mysterious cube. And that is going to give us our presses, and we need these for a lot of the stuff in Applied Energistics. The guide, you can hold on to that if you want to use it, but you can also just hold G over any of the Applied Energistics items and it'll open the guide anyway, so we can just trash that. Now we're going to pick up this cardboard box, and then for the rest of these we can just break them. And the reason we break these is because as they break, they go down to lower tiers and they'll turn into Certus Quartz blocks, which we can break down to Certus Quartz crystals, which are one of the main things you need for Applied Energistics. So we're just going to place these all back down and keep breaking them until they turn into the blocks. And then we're just going to go ahead and farm up a bunch of the Skystone. Because like I said, we're going to need it. Different ways that you can get this, but normally I use extractors to do so, but we're going to have to use a different method. So for now, we're just going to farm this out and grab as much of it as we can. It's safe to say we're pretty good on Skystone for now, so we're not going to worry about that. Let's head to our next meteor. Got another flawless here, and the rest of them are all damaged or chipped, so we'll break this one up and break out the rest. Ooh, is that a Poochyena? I forgot to mention as well, our Zigzagoon army of collectors, they're getting Pokeballs again. They changed it in the most recent update that allows you to start getting Pokeballs from it again. I guess enough people complained. So, yeah. And first catch luck. Perfect. All right, next meteor. Do we have any flawless in here? Ah, perfect. Right here. All right, grab that one. And our last flawless. Perfect. So after 4 meteors, we have 4 of each press, we have 32 blocks of Certus Quartz, and we have 4 flawless budding Certus Quartz. That's a pretty good start. So a lot of the work that we're going to be doing is going to be set up over here, because this is where our power is at, and we need to utilize that power. So the first thing that we're going to do is make a charger, and then we're going to make some inscribers. And we're going to do 5 of these total, 1 for each press and then a side one in between. And then we're just going to set these up all right here. And we're going to take 2 hoppers. We're going to place one right here. And then we're going to place one right on top of the charger as well. And we can start taking these Certus Quartz blocks and charging them. So we have 64 of each. So we'll put 64 in here, let them charge, and then they'll be pushed down to this hopper here, because that'll turn to charged Certus Quartz crystals. And then over here, we're going to start putting our presses in. Put 1 for silicon, 1 for engineering, 1 for logic, and 1 for calculation. Then for our logic, we want to place some gold ingots in here, and it's going to start turning them into printed logic circuits. For our engineering, then we can put our diamond in here, and that's going to start turning them into printed engineering circuits. And then for our calculation, we're going to go ahead and put the other 64 Certus crystals in here, and that's going to start turning them into printed calculation circuits. So then the last one that we have is silicon. And to make silicon, there is one recipe that I strongly recommend above everything else, and that is for quartz blend. It's going to be some Certus quartz dust or quartz dust with some sand and some coal or charcoal to make 6 quartz blend. So we're just going to crush down some of our nether quartz that we got from our mining dimension. And then we'll go ahead and just use our sand and our coal with the quartz dust to make as many as we can. We're going to need some more sand, so let's go grab that. So now we have 3 stacks of quartz blend, and we can just throw that in our furnace here. And that's going to start being pushed directly into our system. And we're getting a ton of silicon. And we're going to want 3 stacks of that to start, because we're going to want 3 stacks of the printed silicone circuits to mix with our 3 stacks of the other circuits. So for now, we're going to use this last inscriber to just have this go with the silicone as well. And we'll let those run over time. But we now have a full stack of charged Certus Quartz crystals. So like I said before, normally I use extractors, but that's not in this pack. What we're ultimately going to want is a reaction chamber. Because with a reaction chamber, you can use charged Certus Quartz with Certus Quartz dust to get 64 Certus Quartz crystals. And that's only 16 and 16, so you double the amount that you're using to get the Certus Quartz. And you can use this and set it up with auto crafting to really start getting a ton of resources out of it and just pretty much make this infinite. But in order to craft the reaction chamber, we're going to need some Fluix dust, a matter condenser, which is more Fluix dust, a vibration chamber, which is Fluix crystals, an energy acceptor, which is some quartz glass, and a few other things. But we can do this. And to do that, we need nether quartz, charged Certus quartz, and some redstone. So let's make sure we turn off our magnet, and you want to come over to some water. And now let's throw this nether quartz, charged Certus, and redstone into the water and see what happens. It all turned into 64 Fluix crystals. So now we're going to take the Fluix crystals, we're going to come to our crusher here, and we're going to crush half of them. And then we're going to take half of our charged Certus quartz and we're going to crush that as well. So let's go ahead and dump those into our system. And then let's start making everything we need for the reaction chamber. And we're also going to want to set this up with a sink. So we're going to put the reaction chamber here, throw a cable here so it starts filling up. And then we put a sink right here. And we'll use some fluid pipes and pull from that. And now this is going to start filling up with water. I messed up. I didn't save quite enough Certus. I shouldn't have done as much fluid. So we're going to need to run to another meteor here, which I think we have one right over here, and grab a couple more Certus quartz. We literally need 5 more. Oh, wait. Did we just come across our first shiny? Oh, we did. Shiny Zigzagoon. It's not a great shiny, but it's something. It's at level 7. We're just going to go ahead and throw some Pokeballs at you. Oh, and a shiny Deerling is... What is happening? Where's the shiny Deerling? Over here? Yep, right here. Holy crap. I haven't seen any shinies since starting this series. And yeah, I just came across 2 back to back. Did they increase the shiny odds with the recent update? All right, let's go. We have 2 shinies now. Awesome. I wish they were shinies that I actually wanted, but I mean, I guess that'll do. And we'll go ahead and leave this flawless right here because we can come back to that later. We don't have enough cardboard box for it. All right, and just like that, we now have an additional 32 Certus quartz. So we're going to crush down 5 of those and we can start duplicating. So now we can take 16 dust and 16 charged. Let this run, and those 16 and 16 just turned into 64. So now what we can do is take this stack and split it. We're going to put half of them in here and half of them in our crusher, and then we can do that again, and we're going to have 128 of them. But while we're waiting for that to happen, we can now come over here, and all of our printed silicon and logic and engineering and calculation are finished, and we have 64 of each. So what we're going to do is take out some of these presses here. So we have the 3 right here with no press, and we can just take our printed logic and our printed silicon, put it in here, our printed engineering, our printed silicon, put it in here, and our printed calculation and our printed silicon and put it in here. And nothing happens because we need some redstone, but luckily we have plenty of it. Grab 3 stacks of redstone, come back up, and start putting some redstone in here. And now these are going to start turning into our processors. Calculation processor, engineering processors, and logic processors. And we're going to have a stack of each of these. While setting that up, all of our Certus quartz became charged and got crushed. So we can run that over here. And we now have 128 Certus quartz crystals. And we can do that again. So now at this point, we kind of have everything basic that we need, because the only other thing that we can do is use the reaction chamber to start making some Fluix crystals. And to do that, we can use the 32 Fluix dust with 32 charged Certus quartz to get 64 crystals. Or we could do 16, 16, and 16 like we do in the world to get 64, but this isn't really worth it. This one, on the other hand, is, because this is infinite now. We can constantly run this and constantly have charged Certus quartz going without having to gather any more materials. All we need is 32 Fluix dust, which we have now. So while we're waiting for the rest of these processors to be made, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate our Certus quartz and our Fluix a few times, so that way we have a good amount going into this. And with this setup too, we don't even really need the flawless budding Certus quartz. Another option you have, instead of using this as a charger, you can use the reaction chamber as a charger. It just takes a ton of energy. But we do have a decent amount stored up, so using this is probably worth it. Then another thing we can do is make some acceleration cards to speed this process up even further. We have plenty of calculation processors now, and then just some diamond, redstone, and iron. And we're going to go ahead and make 4 of these, because then for the acceleration, it's just these advanced cards with some Fluix crystals. And then we can take these and put them in our reaction chamber here. to speed this whole process up. So now when we put charged with dust, it's almost instantaneously. And so as it stands right now, after a little bit of time, we've got all of our processors, we've got 5 stacks of charged Certus, we've got 6 stacks of regular Certus, and we've got 4 stacks of Fluix crystals. I think that's a good start for getting all of our Applied Energistics stuff going. But before we can do that, I don't want to put our system in this room. I want to put our system in the new area, even though it's not decorated. And to do that, we need power over there. And well, we could set this whole thing up over there with our fire Pokemon and all of our furnaces sitting here and running the lava buckets constantly to fill this up. Or we could wirelessly move this power to wherever we want to do that. And to do that, we're going to use Flux Networks. All we need for that is some redstone, some obsidian, and some bedrock. And what we're going to do is make sure our magnet is turned off. We're just going to throw all of our redstone right here without picking it up again. And then we're going to take a piece of obsidian, we're going to place it right here, and then we're going to punch it. And that is going to turn a ton of our redstone into flux dust. So we're going to go ahead and do that again. And now we have a ton of flux dust. And then with this flux dust, we need to make a couple things. First thing that we need to make is a flux controller. And that is going to require 5 flux blocks, 2 dust, and 1 flux core. Flux core is going to be some Eyes of Ender, 4 obsidian, and 4 dust. And then for our flux blocks, that's going to be 4 cores plus 5 dust. And then we get our controller. And then we're also going to need a flux plug, which is going to be another block and 4 flux cores. And then we'll also need a flux point. And for now, we just need 1 of them. And that's just going to be a block of redstone with 4 flux cores. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our flux plug and we're going to place it on top of our energy cube. And then we right click it. And we're going to want to come over here to network selection and create a new network. And this will just be LOL Bumstars network. And then pick a color. We'll go with the light blue and create. So then we click here to pick this network. And this is the network that all of our power is going to run on. And then we can come over to wireless charging and we're going to turn everything on that we can. The only one you can't is main inventory. Turn on wireless charging, apply. But in order to wirelessly charge that, we need to put the flux controller down. And we're going to place that controller right here. Come over to network and collect our network. So now our jetpack is fully charged because this allows that power to be pushed out. You can also do bypass limit. So it'll bypass whatever the transfer limit is. And then power surge is going to bypass the priority and make this the #1 priority. We don't need to worry about that for now. So then our flux point is what we can use to power something away from this. And it's just going to pull power from this block. Flux Networks also has a power storage system where you can do the basic flux storage and that'll hold 2 million FE. And then you can upgrade it to the Herculean, which will hold 16 million. And then the Gargantuan, which will hold 128 million FE. We're not going to worry about those for now because we can hold 102 million FE here, not including what's in these cables and what's inside these furnaces. This is a temporary setup because we're going to need a lot more power than this moving forward, but this will work for the time being. But now that we have wireless power set up, we can start putting stuff over in the area that I dug out in between episodes. And before we do that, we are going to need to start making some machines for Applied Energistics. And the first thing we're going to need to make is a ME controller. We're going to need some skystone blocks, which is just skystone put into a furnace, and it turns it into skystone blocks. Now we can make our ME controller. Let's go ahead and put all of our stuff into the system. So that way, as we need it, it'll just automatically pull out. So here's our first ME controller. And then we're going to need a drive, which is going to require some Fluix ME glass cables. And to make those, we need to make some quartz fibers, which is just Certus quartz with glass. Make our quartz fiber, and we're just going to make 12 of them. Because then we need to use some of our Fluix crystals to make some cables. And we're going to make as many cables as we can, because we'll need those to connect everything together. Make a ME drive. Then we're going to need to make another energy acceptor. And then we're going to need to make a crafting terminal. To do that, it's just a crafting table with a calculation processor and a ME terminal, which is just an illuminated panel with a logic processor and formation cores. Formation cores are fluix dust, Certus quartz, and logic, and annihilation cores are quartz, fluix dust, and logic, with the illuminated panel being quartz glass, glowstone, redstone, and iron. So let's make all of that. And then the last thing that we're going to make is an energy cell. This way, if we run out of power, we have a little bit of a buffer before our system runs out. So let's go set that up. So I've gone ahead and set up this little floating cube here because this is a 7x7 cube. And this is exactly what our controller is going to ultimately look like once we have everything set up. To start, we are just using a single controller, and we're going to place that right here in the middle because that's the start of our system. We don't need the whole multi-block setup yet, because one will be plenty enough to get started. We probably can only handle one with our power at the moment. So we need to be careful because we don't want to run out of power. If we run out of power with the system, we can't access anything. So now what we're going to do is run our cables down from here. So it runs all the way down, and we're going to go ahead and place a drive right at the bottom here. And then we're going to take our crafting terminal and we'll place it right here. Now if we right click it, it says out of power because we haven't set up our energy acceptor yet. So what we'll do is we'll take our cable and we'll place it right here. And then we can take our energy acceptor and place it down here to turn it into a flat surface. And then put our energy cube right here. And now what we'll do is put a cable in this, place our energy acceptor down, and then we can take our point and place it on the energy acceptor, come over to our network, turn it on, and then set up power surge and bypass limit to make sure that this is getting as much power as it possibly can at all times. And our controller lights up, which means our system has power. But we currently don't have anything in our system, and we also can't place anything in here because we have no storage. And that's where this drive comes in. This drive can hold ME drives, just like our QIO system has drives. And we have a couple different drives to pick from to start. We do have a ton of other options in here as well, like mega cells, which hold a absolute ton of storage. But for now, we're just going to use the basic cells because, well, we don't have enough resources to make those. In order to make these, this is the 256K ME storage cell, and it holds 63 types and 262,000 bytes, which work very similar to our QIO drives. QIO drives hold more types, but not as many items. So with this, we need redstone, quartz glass, iron, and copper ingots, and that's just for the cell housing. What you put in the cell housing is the storage component. So for the 256K storage component, you need skystone dust, calculation, quartz glass, and then you need 3 of the 64 storage components. And to make those, you need 3 of the 16. And to make those, you need 3 of the 4K. And to make those, you need 3 of the 1K. And you can use all 5 of those to make storage cells. So bear with me on this, but we're just going to start with some 4Ks because they're pretty easy to make. So we'll start with 5 of those, and then we can just go ahead and make 5 of our 4K storage cells. Now, if we put these 4K storage cells in here, we can come over to our terminal and we can start putting items in this. As you can see, that takes 32 bytes and a 1 storage type. If we start dumping other stuff in here, it'll start filling up. So we're at 188 with 5 different types of items. But unlike our QIO storage system, we're not going to just dump everything into drives. We're going to be a little more organized than that. And to do that, we are going to use functional storage. We're going to need a storage controller. We're going to need a good amount of diamond upgrades, which is just a continuation of make copper, then make them into gold, and then turn them into diamond. And then you can also upgrade them to netherite as well with a smithing template. We just haven't gotten those yet. Now we're going to need a linking tool, a configuration tool. And then we're going to make a bunch of the 2x2 oak drawers. And then we're also going to want to make some storage upgrades for those as we go as well. And then we're going to want to make a controller access point. And we're going to need a couple of these, but for now we're just going to make one. And then the last thing that we're going to need is a ME storage bus. And that's just 2 pistons and an ME interface, which we have the leftover formation cores from earlier. And pistons, well, they're easy enough to make. So now let's go set this up, and we're going to go ahead and set all of this up down here because this is going to be our Applied Energistics area as well as our main storage area. Normally I have two separate areas for this, but I want to kind of keep it together. And for now, I'm just going to put all of our drawers in the wall like this, just 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, so 16 total. And as we need more space, we will add more, but for now, that's all I have in terms of upgrades. And I don't want to overflow them quite yet. Now, the awesome thing about these is if you right click on the border, you can see storage and utility. So first up for storage, we're going to put a diamond upgrade inside of each one of these. And you can just right click these onto the storage drawers as well, instead of having to right click into them and place it. But now each one has a diamond upgrade, as you can see by the little icon in the bottom left corner here. And then we have our storage controller. And what we're going to do with our storage controller is we're going to actually place this down underneath our drive. And we'll go ahead and just dig that down a tiny bit. Because once this is set up, we really don't need to worry about it later on. So we're going to place that here. And then we want to shift right click with an empty hand. And we're going to put diamond upgrades on all of this. So that way the range is way higher. Then we want to right click it with our linking tool, and there should be a giant box in terms of where we can actually reach with this. It looks like with the shader pack, it might be turned off. I don't know, unless with the diamond upgrades, it is just insanely high. Let's see, if we go back into this and take all of these range upgrades out and then open this, there we go. So here is our range. This is as far as you can go by default. So technically speaking, these are inside of it, but these aren't. So we wouldn't be able to link these in. But if we put the 4 diamond upgrades in here, that just massively increases the range that those can be linked. So now if we come over here, we can link all of these. And you can also shift right click to swap to multiple modes. So you can just do this and select all of them at once. And then we want to use the configuration tool, and you can just right click on each of these and it'll lock them. So whatever is put into these will stay in it, and it won't allow anything extra to be placed in, so you can control what goes into them. But if you right click it onto the controller as well, that'll automatically just lock every single one of these. Locking them is extremely important because if you start dumping stuff into that storage, it'll just start auto-filling into everything. It doesn't matter if you already have an item here, so you had redstone here and this was unlocked, redstone would start filling up into this one as well. But now in order to access this, we need a storage bus. So we want to place the storage bus on top of the storage controller. And then we just need to run some cables to it, and this should stay online. And then we want to right click here and hit priority. And then we want to set this to priority 1000, or really as high as you want to go. But that just means that this is going to have the ultimate priority. It means that when we put stuff into our system, if there is a spot here for that item, it'll be placed into our functional storage before it's placed into our drive, which means these drives will hold everything that we don't have in functional. And we're going to use functional for all of our bulk items. So for example, we have a ton of ender pearls, a ton of bones, a ton of slime balls, and a ton of redstone inside of this chest. We're going to go give that a place to live. And while we're here, we're also going to grab everything else. Everything that drops from this mob farm, we now have 1 stack of in our inventory. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to place each one of these inside of our drawers. What's up, Quagsire? Just hanging around in here, checking out the room. Good for you. But now we have all of these items in our system and just a stack of each. But if we come over here to our crafting terminal, we have access to all of these. So now let's go ahead and take all the slime balls out. We look, this says 0 slime balls now that we've taken it out. If we come back in here and place it into our system, they're put directly into this first because there's room. And as you can see, we can hold 12k of each of these, except for ender pearls, which are down to 3.1. But the more diamond upgrades that we put in here, the more we'll be able to hold. But now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we are going to connect this to our system. And we are going to place a item pipe here and set this to pool. And then if we right click, we can put our advanced diamond upgrade in here. And this is just going to allow it to transfer a lot quicker. And then we can place our controller access point. And we need to link this. As you can see, the bones are starting to go down. And obviously we have a lot more resources in here than what we can hold in our drawers. But with the way this is set up using a controller access point, it is only going to be sent to our drawers. So when we're mousing over this, we can see the bones are starting to fill up. And it's going to fill those up until the bones are at max capacity. And then it's going to move on to the next item, because this isn't sending it to our system, it's sending it to our functional storage. So we don't have to worry about all these items overflowing our entire ME system. But we also have all of this set up down here, and we're going to go ahead and lock all of these. And we'll link these to our system as well. So now we have access to all of these items in our system. And as you can see, it's all available there. And if we come over to our drive, we still have 0 items in any of our drives. And it's all neatly organized. Now that we have that basic setup, we can set that up for everything that we have being automated. We could set that up for all of these items, so everything that's being processed by these zigzagoons will be sent into our system, and it'll have a place to live. And we can set up a system for these as well. We can use a dimensional chest, which is right here, to send all of these items into our system and be placed in the drawers, so it's all neatly organized, and when we need them, we can just pull them directly from our system. Now I've gone ahead and I've made some compacting drawers, and we're going to set these up. And I've also made some simple compacting drawers. And the difference between these is this has 2 slots and this has 3. And what these can do is we can take an iron ingot, place it in here, and now it has iron ingots, iron nuggets, and blocks of iron inside of it. But if we take a block of iron out, you can see the rest of them drop down, because it just pretty much allows our system to say, hey, we have iron, which means we have nuggets and we have blocks, and you can pull any of them out from the same amount without having to worry about it. And then over here, we're going to lock all of our simple drawers, and we're going to put uranium in here, diamonds here, steel, and then redstone blocks, which means we're going to have to pull our redstone out from over here, which is fine. The best way to do that is we want to use the linking tool. If you right click it into the air, it'll turn it to removing, so we can remove that. So that way we can unlock it. And now with us unlocking it, we can sit here and take all of the redstone out of it, which is going to take a while because we have about 12k in there. There we go, redstone removed. So now we can lock that again, right click into the air and hit add. So that's back into it. Now we're going to take all of our redstone, which is following us with our magnet, and come up here and right click that all into our system. But instead of doing it like we are right now, which for some reason it's just going to take a while because I'm not thinking it through, we're going to go ahead and link all of these to our system, and then we're going to put a diamond upgrade into the redstone one, because now that's going to allow us to have 111k. And then we're going to go ahead and put a copper one in it as well to make it even higher. So now we can come over to our system and let's just start dumping all of the redstone. And there we go, 14k, and it's climbing up at the same rate that the blocks of redstone are climbing up. So then the last thing that we want to do before we start pushing all of this storage into our system is just kind of go through and see what we have that could use a place to live. Like coal, for example. We want coal to have somewhere. And then the beautiful part about the QIO setup is that we can take all of these out, break our driver away, break our dashboard, and bring this over to our AE system, so we can just access it all right next to it until we get everything pushed over. Because we kind of have our inventory split now. So we're going to go ahead and make a import bus as well as some acceleration cards, and we're going to link this to our system here. Throw our acceleration cards in, and this should start pulling everything from this system, I believe. Maybe that doesn't work. I wonder if a storage bus does. So it doesn't look like any of this works. Unfortunately, it looks like we might need to start pulling all of this out manually. I'm just going to try one last thing before I start doing that. Yeah, unfortunately, it does not look like this is going to allow us to pull any items out of these drives with any type of pipes, interface, import, or anything like that. So that means we're going to have to start moving all of this over manually, which is gonna be a bit of a pain. I will say, as I'm finishing this up, as nice as QIO was for early game storage, I don't know if I would ever use it again. It took a while to set up, just in terms of time. Not that it was hard or that there were any issues with it. It just took a while in terms of time because of the resources needed. And this not being able to transfer it over by pulling it out with items when we're switching to AE kind of puts a damper on it for me, as there are other early game systems that we could have done that will allow you to transfer everything over pretty easily, that also allow you to link up things like functional storage or sophisticated storage, just to make your life a bit easier when you transition. So yeah, this, like I said, this is it's a nice early game storage, but there's so many things with it that just make it difficult to suggest using too early. And with how easy it is to get to this basic system of Applied Energistics, I think it's probably I think we're probably better off just going straight Applied Energistics or doing something with a magic mod. So with that being said, our QIO storage is officially gone, and everything is in our Applied Energistics storage. But now that we have this set up, we can set up the terminal size here. You can sort by item name, number of items, or a mod. I normally go number of items. And then I'll do a sort by descending, so at the top I can see what we have the most of first. And if we come over here, I added 3 new drives, and one of them has nothing in it. The other one's at 19 items. These are all at 63, so we'll definitely need to upgrade these at some point. But there is a lot of items in here that could be put into functional storage that we just don't have quite set up yet. But I will do that as we progress further on. So that's going to be it for today's episode. We are officially moving on to Applied Energistics 2, which means we can start moving on to autocrafting. And that's where the mid-game starts to really open up, because up until this point, we've been early game. Limited resources, limited storage, small amount of power, some basic armor. That's all early game stuff. The mid-game for modded Minecraft, and especially in AllTheMons pack, starts happening when you get into autocrafting and resource generation. So we have 2 major things that we're going to be working on in the next couple episodes. That's going to be autocrafting and better power. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Later.